Hello, everyone, and welcome to Study Hall. This is Aged Boomer, and with me is my co-host, PaPa Pacelli.
Hello. I would ask my my host what he's sipping on, but I know he's doing drugs and he doesn't want to get demonetized. So let's not talk about that.
It's a Benadryl. For some reason, I either got a sinus infection or the allergies are acting wonky because it's 2020 and nothing can be normal. Okay, so
you are doing drugs. Is that or is that not a drug?
I am taking over-the-counter medication that
it is a drug.
Used to be, which some of it got taken off the market because certain people were using it to make certain drugs out of. But anyway, but it's perfectly legal what I took.
And when it knocks you out because you're an aged boomer, I'm going to take over the show.
I'm already starting to get tired here. Okay. Anyway, I'm sipping on an A&W root beer in a frosty cold can.
Oh, and are you holding it with the pinky and the thumb like they did in the old commercial? That frosty mug tape. Okay. You don't. You're not as aged a boomer as you should be.
Probably not. I'll have to look that up later. It might ring a bell.
Big Al would know what I was talking about.
Yes. Oh man.
Well, of course, Netter. Well, Netter, you always know what I'm talking about. So.
And you and I were on Daniel's stream. I actually was on with you. I remember we were talking about Universal Studios' future slate, and I almost thought that should be a story one week when we have nothing to do because.
Well, every time you think we're going to have nothing to talk about, we have stuff to talk about.
No, I was thinking this could be a nice, simple week. But let me say hi to the chat, okay?
Yep.
Melissa Harris, welcome. Wolf 10 Media. I can't do. I'm going to try to do the wolf. Woo!
Oh, that's beautiful. Try that again.
Okay, I'm not.
Okay, I'll do it for you.
Do it for me. I'll do it first, and I'll do it. Okay.
Laughing at you.
What?
Hey, Wolfie. Ow!
Woo! I can't do it, man. I'm sorry.
Oh, dude. You're just too old.
This is the close of the 2020, everybody. Okay. Nanette, welcome. The Netters
you
Network.
Miss Brian Gilmartin. You got so focused on Wolfie, you missed Brian Gilmartin.
Brian Gilmartin, yes. Trooper FN2525. Okay, welcome. I forgot who mentioned someone else was watching the videos and he made a comment and he was saying that word you'd like to say frack, but he said it differently. But I had to correct him. But
frack?
You know,
frack.
Battlestar Galactica cuss word.
Yeah, frack.
Yeah, okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
Auditor Dredd's in the house. Joshua V. Melissa, we already said Leia Plus Size, Daniel Heron.
Mm-hmm.
And Jedi Masters Utopia. We got a little 8 out of 10 on the how. Thank you very much, Wolf 10. Okay. Anyway, okay. All right. So here we are. We're gonna.
So I did see somebody was concerned about. I guess the concern was about spoilers for Wonder Woman 84. I will say this up front. I'm only going to talk about things I've heard other people say. I have not seen it. I have no intention of seeing it. I would have to see the first Wonder Woman movie before I saw 1984. And from everything I've heard about 1984, it's not worth the bandwidth to download the darn thing. So I'm just not going to bother.
We will try not to say anything. If I feel like I'm going to, I'll give you a warning. But I haven't seen the movie, so I've only heard what other people have said. Now I've probably forgotten what they said at this point, just from what I've heard anyway. But
yeah.
All right,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. There's plenty to talk about tonight, guys.
All right. So are we excited for the first story?
Well, our first story is always, we always try to bring you the news about the Hollywood apocalypse, the streaming war update, just to keep everybody apprised. And looks like the next casualty in the streaming wars is indeed, yes, MGM. This one comes from Variety. MGM is exploring a sale of its studio. And, on the one hand, it's big business news, right? On the other hand, as Boomer and I were talking about what it really means to the industry. Well, Boomer, what does it mean to the industry? I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Well, MGM Holdings is exploring a sale. They have co-ownership of Bond. I wrote, what does that mean?
Yeah, co-ownership. They don't own Bond at all. Eon owns Bond. The only thing that MGM owns is the distribution rights. So whoever buys them would have the opportunity to put James Bond on their streaming service. Woo! Which was what other streaming services were looking at purchasing in the first place. And they weren't willing to spend the billions of dollars that MGM was asking for those distribution rights. So now someone can just spend that money and buy up the whole darn studio. But what else comes with MGM besides those distribution rights? What we could not figure out anything that MGM owns. What franchise, what movie, what properties? Ooh, the Pink Panther. Let's start a Pink Panther shared universe.
That's we're talking about the Steve Martin version or the Peter Sellers?
Yes,
okay.
Into the Pantherverse.
Okay. Well, listen, I don't know. A market value of $5.5 billion. That's not chump change.
Keep in mind, that's very close to what Disney spent on Lucasfilm. And they got Star Wars, they got Indiana Jones, they got Willow, they got Howard the Duck. I mean, they got something. They got something for that. Now, they may have crapped all over it and made it worthless. It wasn't worthless when they paid $5 billion for it.
It says market value of $5.5 billion, including debt, though. And I was like, are you buying the debt when you buy the company?
Exactly. You absolutely are.
You
absolutely are.
Okay. So are they 10 billion in debt? I don't know. Okay. Anyway, let's see. MGM's current top shareholder is the hedge fund Anchorage Capital, which is led by former Goldman Sachs executive Kevin Ulrich.
Mm-hmm.
Ulrich is also head of MGM's board of directors. Goldman Sachs. There you go.
Yeah. I what it comes down to is I want to say it's a big nothing burger, but it's not. It's potential news, right? We're going to have to wait and see who decides they want to buy this and what they plan to do with it. I mean, and that'll tell us why they're buying it, right? I mean, are they buying it for those sweet, sweet James Bond distribution rights? Is James Bond worthwhile to somebody? Is someone going to go, yeah, everyone's upset about James Bond. Nobody cares about James Bond anymore. Let me spend $5 billion for your studio just so I can put this on my streaming service.
They have Rocky.
That's something. Does that come with the Creed?
It does come with Creed. That was another big hit of theirs was Creed. Okay.
I mean, as much as I think that's good, I don't see that $5 billion worth though.
Hit television shows like The Handmaid's Tale and Vikings.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can keep Handmaid's Tale.
And it says The Hobbit as well. I thought Warner Brothers had The Hobbit. This is where everything gets confusing to me. Was it like a co-production with Warner?
No
they did The Hobbit.
And what they probably mean is specifically that movie, not anything current. So it's not like they could take and get a piece of the Tolkien, deal that is going on the other streaming service. I don't know. This is one of those things that it's like, really? People are starting to get desperate now. But look, just the fact that MGM is up for sale is a big deal. They're the first ones that are going, we're dying here. Someone buy us, please.
You could have a Rain Man limited series.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Anyway, let me check see if anything. I don't know. The Bond movies are everywhere these days, though. Are the older ones? They're on YouTube. You can watch for free.
For free. That's what I was just going to say. They're everywhere for free. What does that tell you? It means it's been devalued. Yes, people are interested in it, but nobody's interested in paying for it.
I remember in the 90s and even the early to mid 2000s, Bond was huge. There wasn't a bigger franchise out there. And now it's like,
here's the problem. When a movie
is going to bomb, and it's like,
when a movie is a classic and it's out there and it's on DVD and it's re-released on DVD and it's re-released in collections and the Sean Connery collection and the complete collection and the 1963 collection, whatever. People already own it. So nobody is going to pay money to watch it on a streaming service. They can pop that DVD in anytime they want. Like I tell you guys, own physical media. They can never take it away from you. But so now the only value for James Bond is what they can make going forward. And they are stumbling big time. The last couple movies have sucked. There is no excitement about the next one. All the fans are annoyed and not planning to see it, whether they release it in theaters or on streaming service. So who wants to pay for it? Anyone who thinks that there's some value there simply is not paying attention.
Yeah, see, I thought Skyfall was good, and then we got Spectre, which was not good. In fact, I think they titled it before they had a script written. That's never a good sign. And Quantum of Solace, that was kind of a dub because that was written in a hurry because they were fearing the writer's strike. Then Bond went on hiatus because nobody would buy MGM. Remember that?
Yep.
Daniel Craig was saying, I'm going to lose my abs. Get this movie made. Okay.
Well, my thought would be then keep working out, dude. I mean, that's your job. You know, you want to stay marketable, you better stick with it.
Casey Scott says, all the big franchises have been devalued. Yeah, I think that might be the theme of tonight's show. So we're going to continue on. But do you have anything else to say about? But apparently Apple TV and Warner Media, they were considered to be the people that might the companies that might be interested.
Yeah, but my question is, are they willing to pay that much money for it? Especially, I didn't even catch that aspect that they would have to assume all the debt too.
Well, Warner, they say Warner can't. Okay.
Yeah.
You're fiscally unable.
So that's pretty much out. Apple probably can, but they're going to have to be, if they're intelligent, they're going to look at it and go, is it worth it? Just because I can doesn't mean I should.
But even if Apple did, could they even make their own Bond movies or television series? Wouldn't they have to get permission from the family that's also the co-owner to do this?
Keep in mind, again, you're not buying James Bond. Yeah. Eon still owns James Bond. So no, they can't.
But they could do the James Bond Jr. revival. I never watched the cartoon, so I can't comment on it. But anyway, okay. So so we'll see what happens with MGM. I don't even think of MGM as a studio anymore, to be honest with you.
Well, apparently they're not. That's what I think I've gotten out of tonight's conversation.
They always talk about being sold, and I remember back when they were trying to get MGM sold, and they were like, "Are you going to go ahead without MGM on the next Bond movie?" And the producer said, "No, we can't do that. It wouldn't feel right without the MGM logo on the front." And I'm thinking, well, it was never the MGM logo; it was the United Artists logo that was owned by MGM, and then later on, it became MGM toward the end of the Pierce Brosnan era, and then what was it? And then it was when Casino Royale got released, Sony put that out.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what they were talking about unless they put it out on DVD and not theatrically. I don't know. So it's all very confusing.
So what's based, the way I look at it, the lion is too old and decrepit to even take in a deep enough breath to make a roar. He's got no teeth, and it's kind of time for you to put him down. I'm sorry.
Well, maybe they can cast anew and start. Never mind. Anyway.
Well, maybe they could de-age him using CG.
MGM has a large movie and TV catalog they can license to Netflix or someone. They probably have movie studio properties they can sell or release. Yeah, maybe. I'm not thinking of any. That's the thing. Like they released Silence of the Lambs, right? But do they own the rights to that story?
Keep in mind, we had been talking about that. Was it last week or the week before, where they were trying to license or resell or whatever the streaming rights to the next James Bond movie, and they wanted too much money for it. Nobody was willing to pay for it. So yeah, I mean, Jedi Masters Utopia is right technically, but they're asking too much money. They're just trying to get out of debt. They're trying to, if anything, they can break even, but they're not even going to do that.
Then it might be more attractive to a prospective buyer. Okay.
Yeah.
Unless there's fun fact, Ted Turner owned MGM in the 80s briefly, so I think Warner Media will get MGM. Well, it's interesting because I always thought it was weird because didn't Warner Media release Gone with the Wind?
Possibly.
Right? No, it was MGM that released it. And that was a Warner Brothers movie, but Warner Brothers re-released, I think, Wizard of Oz, which was an MGM movie back when DVD was young. I don't know. That never made any sense to me. So I always figured there was a tie between those two companies. But anyway.
Yeah. But again, what it comes down to is Warner is broke. They can't afford. So I don't think it's as simple as Melissa Harris makes it out to sound. She's right, but I don't think they can move on it. They may want to, but and again, I think it comes down to, even if they had the money, is it fiscally advantageous to do so? I don't think so. I really don't think so. So it may be in nothing, but I think it's significant at least to point out that MGM is in a situation where they're looking to sell. No one's looking to buy, but they are looking to sell. But that does bring us to where Hollywood is overall. We've spent the past, I don't know, we've spent months talking about trying to serve two masters, trying to make movies to appease the Chinese market as well as the American market, and not really succeeding in either. And it's looking more and more like a lot of people are starting to realize that, because this other piece out of Variety, local movies ruled the Asian box office in 2020. How can Hollywood catch up? So in other words, Hollywood's making all these movies, making concessions for China, sending them over there, and one after the other, whether it's Mulan, whether it's Wonder Woman, whether it's what it is coming back as a flop in the Chinese market. Why is it a flop? Well, some of it might be because they're offended. They were offended by a line from Monster Hunter. They had issues with Mulan, whatever the case is. Or it's just as simple as, you know what? If we have a choice between an American-made movie and a Chinese-made movie, we're going to go see the Chinese-made movie. Shocker. Hello.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just China, though. It's all of Asia, according to this article. Local movies ruled the Asia box office in 2020. Can Hollywood catch up? This is by Patrick Frater.
And the fact is, absolutely not. As long as they can, I said it months ago, and I've been saying it. As long as they continue to put all their eggs in the communist Asian basket, they're betting on the losing horse. But, you know, heaven forbid someone should look at history and you know, figure out what's going to happen going forward and then be proven right. Hello. It'll happen every single time. And now we see it happening. Hollywood is already over the barrel, and now they see the Asian market drying up on them. Maybe it's time for them to start making movies that are actually going to sell here in the United States. Come back home, make your movies, and if they do well, then you can export them for a few extra dollars.
I made a comment here. First, we had American-made movies for American audiences. Then it eventually became the global marketplace. Mm-hmm. And now I'm starting to wonder if maybe they're just going to focus on Asia with their movies. I don't know.
Well, what do you think your chances are? I mean, they're already doing that, really, and they're flopping because the local movies are doing better than the American. No matter how good the American film is, they're going to choose their own film with their own actors, with the people they know, the people that they are employing themselves in their country, their own economy. Imagine that. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous to Americans, but other countries have their heads on straight in this regard.
Top movie in China, the $472 million box office. Mm-hmm. Top movie in Japan, Demon Slayer, the movie, Mugen Train, 291 million. I don't know what Demon Slayer is. I'm sure I'll be hearing a lot about it in 2021 because I'm sure if that isn't out here already, it's gonna be coming in the next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I said it all along. Hollywood is betting on the wrong horse, and now they've lost their shirts, and now they've got to figure out what they're going to do.
Well, now the other part of this though is that they don't have as much of a streaming presence in these countries.
Exactly. That's the other thing. That's the other thing is changing the topography. If you make a movie, how do you distribute it there now? If you can't get it in the theaters, how do you distribute it?
Yeah, I think they were making a point that I forgot which country it was. One of these Asian countries. It was Disney was in charge of the Warner Brothers releases over there, the Disney over there, and I thought that was. But there was an interesting thing, like the movie Abominable.
Yeah.
That's one of those tongue twisting words.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a Pro Animation, and I think they were originally a Chinese animation studio that was partnered with DreamWorks. Now they're kind of working on their own, and they're wanting to deploy resources to focus on Chinese language animation movies in which China is the main market. So I almost feel like they were joined up with our studio making movies globally, and now they're just going to start focusing on the Chinese market over there.
Yep. So in other words, Hollywood just basically got screwed by just the same way so many manufacturers that went to China, sent over their dye-in machines and whatnot, and then found out, oh, the manufacturers over there have decided that they're not going to work with us anymore. They're keeping the machines, they're keeping the dye, and they're going to make their own stuff. And guess what? You're out of luck. Well, Hollywood's kind of getting the same treatment. Congratulations.
Netflix is funding Korean dramas and Japanese animation. They're putting a lot of stuff into shows over there. In fact, it was interesting. Netflix had a Ju-on the Grudge series. They had one of those for the American Netflix, but I suspected it was made for the Japanese market and then imported over here. Because it wasn't in English; it was in Japanese. So I did check that out. But I thought that was interesting that we always think of all these streaming services giving us original programming, but we may end up taking a backseat to that at some point. I don't know.
Well, that's just it. And isn't that the way of the American business? We used to be the leaders, and now we're taking the back seat to everybody. Congratulations.
It's interesting. Crazy Rich Asians was a global hit, but a dud in China. That was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But, of course, I would hope it was a hit in Singapore since it took place there. But it had Michelle Yeoh in it, though.
But that's the other thing, too. I mean, they'll look at these actors that we cast and they go, oh, she's a Chinese American, or she's some sort of Asian American. She's an American. We don't care. That's what they say, Yeah,
that's true. I know. Oh, back to the drawing board as a point. Hollywood needs to stop making huge movies and start making more small movies.
I would argue, even moreover, they need to stop making huge, crappy movies and start making small, good movies.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's quality. It is quality.
All right. Disney Plus will roll out in Singapore in February. Netflix doesn't operate a platform in mainland China. I had that written down. So, Okay. So they really do American companies really do rely on these theaters, because I don't know how they're okay. But
let's get specific. How did Wonder Woman 84 do in China? This one out of Forbes completely bombed. Actually, you could just do a search. Everybody is saying Wonder Woman bombs, Wonder Woman bombs, Wonder Woman bombs. Wonder Woman received cool reception. Wonder Woman didn't do as well as expected. Let's face it, it bombed.
Yeah. The Rescue beat out Wonder Woman 84. That's a movie about the Chinese Coast Guard. I had a joke that maybe they got Ryan Johnson to direct it, and a rescue doesn't happen in the movie.
Subverting
expectations. Okay, I'll shut up now. Okay.
No, I think if anything subverted expectations, it was Wonder Woman 84, because so many people liked the first Wonder Woman movie, and everyone kind of hates the new one. Yeah, I don't think any audience likes the new Wonder Woman movie.
No. Biggest global grosses of the year, China. I mentioned the 800. Also, My People, My Homeland for 430 million. Okay, I don't know how that would do over here, but we'll see.
They don't care. They make it for themselves. I mean, that's the way it's supposed to work. You make a movie for your own country, do well in your own country. If you can then export it and make a few extra dollars, that's gravy. But don't expect it to be the main part of your or somehow double your market. It doesn't work that way.
Okay. Aged Boomer, when was the last time we saw an original IP in the last decade? Original in the sense that it was brand new completely. John Wick, I think.
Possibly.
Maybe.
Possibly.
That's the only thing that rings a bell. Actually, that might be something original because most of it is based on. And I kept thinking when I saw it, is this based on a graphic novel or something? But I don't think it was. I think it was just an original movie. But
Yeah.
Leia Plus Size says Hollywood needs to learn to make good movies all around. Either they are big or small. You have to sell a good story, and they are not doing that.
Yeah. Well, and there's nothing wrong with the profit motive. So think like a businessman. If you're going to spend big dollars, you better be damn sure that it's going to do well. Otherwise, maybe scale it down a little bit and hedge your bets.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what was the last big blockbuster I saw that I really liked from Hollywood. I liked Battle Angel Alita. That was good.
Well, I think the best movie of 2020 was Sonic the Hedgehog.
The last movie I saw in the theaters was 1917, but I wonder if that was a holdover from last year that I just didn't see around the holidays. But yeah, I don't know. Aged Boomer, good call. I feel Hollywood just does sequels, remakes, and reboots. Yeah, I don't know. We're getting I don't know how many more Fast and the Furious movies from Universal. So, and then everything else is untitled. But we'll talk about that another time.
Well, I can't complain too much about that. I mean, as long as people keep paying for those movies, they're going to keep making them. I think it's ridiculous, but I don't blame them for making them.
Are you looking forward to Untitled musical event? I'm thinking it's going to be Cats 2: Rum Tum Tugger's Revenge.
Oh, we already got Cats 2. It was called Wonder Woman 84.
Okay, let's talk about Wonder Woman 84. Let's see. Rotten Tomatoes removes the Wonder Woman 1984 certified fresh rating.
Yeah, so this comes out of Comic Book News, but you can find it from a bunch of different outlets. So up until Christmas Day, when it was released, there was an embargo, right? So that means, and we've seen it. We've seen it over and over again with Rotten Tomatoes. They protect these movies. And it's certified fresh at like 74% for however long, because the only people that have seen it are the ones that get the advanced screeners. And the advanced screeners never say anything negative about these movies because they always want to be the ones that get to see the movie first. As long as they have a vested interest, they're always going to be positive. And if you haven't figured that out yet, then you shouldn't even be paying attention to reviews then, because you're always going to be disappointed. Then it comes out, then you get the audience reviews, then you get the honest reviewers coming out, and it suddenly drops below 64%. And now it's no longer certified fresh. And I'll tell you, every outlet that I have not been able to find a positive review of Wonder Woman anywhere out there. Nobody seems to like this movie. I don't know.
No. I know that Ethan Van Sciver was talking about it.
Even Van Sciver was laughing about it. Oh,
Angry Joe, though, he was furious.
Oh gosh, I had never seen the guy's show before, but I thought he was going to have an aneurysm. Man, he earned his name on that one.
I'm gonna say, yeah. I typically Angry Joe is. Some people don't like this term, but the term normie, like he's not really overly on either side. He just and he's usually pretty generous of things. Like, I know that if he didn't like it, something was wrong. Okay, I think he tends to give things more of a pass than he probably should. And he was very upset. He's been having a bad year. He hated Picard as well. He was very upset about that. And he,
well, this is what people aren't understanding. You're not making films and TV shows and whatnots for the fans. The fans don't like it. The normies aren't liking it because it's just crap, So who are you making this for? You're making this for your, I don't know, politically positioned, ideologies. That's not a good way of making money. That's a good way of losing money. That's a good way of ending up like MGM, where you can't even sell your own studio.
Well, that's the thing. They were saying, is the villain based on a current sitting president, or is he not? And people are just reading into it. And I've heard both ways, people saying both things. Okay. I don't know because I haven't seen the movie myself.
Everything I've heard is that it's just like everything else. We get all this, SJW talking points, and this is a commentary on Trump, and this is this, and this is this. And then you go actually see the movie, and even though you go in sensitized for that and expecting it, you're like, I'm actually looking for it, not seeing it. You know, the only similarity is he's a businessman. There's a line apparently about him being an ex-TV personality or something like that. And he's got that wig that kind of makes him look sort of maybe like Trump. Other than that, absolutely nothing having to do with anything. You know, so I don't know. I don't know how they thought this was supposed to bring them, you know, butts in the seats, but it hasn't. It's not there. So the payoff, the audience that you're shooting towards is going to be disappointed. I don't know.
The main talk I've heard is that it's not as good as the first movie, and that it's kind of goofy and campy, I think they said. Yeah. I don't know.
Not to mention that with this, you know, it's Wonder Woman. It's, you know, it's supposed to be the SJW talking points, the strong woman. The guy is the one that needs saving, blah, 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 blah. All the feminist talking points, right? And it falls flat on every single one of those as well.
Well, from what I heard, every man in the movie, every male character in the movie is bad except for her love interest, basically. That was
and like that's the problem that a lot of the feminists have. Why is this movie all about her obsession with a man?
Well, let's not spoil it for the.
I'm not, because I'm not even getting into the details. I'm just saying that, you know, again, the fans are not interested. The SJWs are disappointed. Literally, everybody is coming out against this movie. And it's like, who was your audience? Who were you trying to pull in? Because you made nobody happy. I've also heard it was 2.5 hours long, and it still felt like there was a great deal of plot points that were left on the cutting room floor. There were big chunks of it there that make no sense. Again, from what I've heard, I didn't see this PLS.
Well, we're gonna get a miniseries on HBO.
Yeah, look forward to people calling for the Jenkins cut.
No, they're talking about doing a third movie now.
Yeah. And when you consider we're only 3 days into this movie being out there, and everything coming out about it is negative, and nobody likes it, and it bombed in China, and then come out 3 days later saying, oh yeah, we're definitely working on a third movie. Okay, fine. Then you had already decided that going into it. It didn't matter how it did. You were already planning on making it, and you knew you were probably going to take a loss on it. That's a brilliant, genius business move. You know, Warner Brothers, are you getting ready to sell off just the way MGM is? Because that's how you're going to end up.
Not yet. They'll buy MGM and sell that off with, I don't know. Anyway, okay. Leia Plus Size says, Aged Boomer. True, there is a lot of man hating in Wonder Woman 84. One of the many reasons I did not like it. Oh, so you've seen it? Okay. I don't know if anybody else has kind of seen it. I'm kind of curious if you could maybe just well, I guess you didn't like it, so I guess we know.
Well, everything that I've heard in that regard is that every male character in it was either a villain or inept.
That could be kind of funny, though. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's the problem. It wasn't meant to be funny. That's,
of course not.
You know, that's the problem. You know, and apparently even the villain, you know, the so-called Trump-esque character, his motivations don't make any sense. Nobody has been able to figure out what his plan was. You know, why was he doing what he was doing? There's even a villain, even if it's evilness for evilness sake, as you twirl your mustache, at least make that clear. And they didn't. Is it because you want to get your son back? Is it because you want to take over the world? Is it because you hate women? What is it? Give us something to hate you for.
Oh, Joshua V says, I saw it Christmas Day, and the people that were with me watching it didn't like it, and one of them found it boring. Okay.
I have heard a lot of people say they fell asleep an hour into it.
That was a big complaint. Was that it was on for even Mark Kermode, who actually gave it a good review, he complained that it was like 2.5, went on too long. They should have shaved an hour off of it, probably.
Yeah. And I've also heard a lot of people say, why was it Wonder Woman 84? You know, the big analysis is you look at Wonder Woman, the first one, it was set during World War One. And whether it was World War II or World War One, there's a lot of very important things about the era. It's taking place during war. They're talking about war. I mean, the war to end all wars, you know, thematically relevant. What did they draw on from the 80s? Did they refer to the Reagan era, the Cold War, any of that? No, nothing. You know, they didn't even draw a lot from some of the great 80s songs that they could have used. I mean, if you were going to choose, okay, here's a woman who existed during World War One. She's been around for hundreds of years, and she's effectively immortal, and they didn't have Cyndi Lauper's Time After Time. Seriously?
That should have played in a scene I saw in the trailer, I think. Yeah, I know. Okay.
Yeah.
Wolf 10 says, one contention, though, I made in previous streams that these people simply are not writers. Yeah, but didn't Jeff Jones work on this? Jeff Johns?
Not only that, but apparently the way they portrayed the 80s was like somebody who grew up in the 90s trying to write about the 80s.
Yeah, well,
we're not talking about like Stranger Things, where I sit and watch Stranger Things and I'm like, these guys really get the 80s. Oh yeah, that brings back all the memories and all the feels, right? None of that apparently here with this Wonder Woman.
I think I was listening to some of the Midnight's Edge commentary on it, and they were saying that you know, all the 80s outfits they were wearing is that a few people might have dressed like that in like Pasadena or something. You know, it's not the whole country.
I know.
These are usually the people that Eddie Murphy would have made fun of in Beverly Hills Cop or something, you know.
Yeah, it's
they're not
clearly these people don't know Wonder Woman. They don't know the 80s. They don't know their history. They don't know good storytelling. My goodness, get out of the business. You don't belong making movies. Stop. Just stop already. And yet they're going to go ahead with a third movie.
I'm thinking a third movie. I'm thinking we could get some more original HBO series too.
But hey, let's look forward to that Patty Jenkins Star Wars movie. Luckily, she got that locked in.
Whatever interest I had in Rogue Squadron is now starting to slip now because of what I've heard about this movie. I mean, we'll see. I mean, sometimes it isn't always the director's fault, but usually the director is the captain of the ship, right? So
at this point, I don't know what to make of Patty Jenkins. I don't know how much of what I've seen of her work is her being good, how much of it is her capitulating to a movie studio. I don't know anymore. And to be honest with you, I'm at the point that I don't care anymore.
I don't know. I wonder though, is this like a too many cooks in the kitchen? Like everybody?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
What are the good movies? The good movies are the ones where you have a filmmaker who says, look, this is the movie I'm making. If you don't like it, go find somebody else. And that's how you end up with Peter Jackson or the original George Lucas doing Star Wars or whatever. You have somebody who bucks the system, makes a great movie, and is remembered for it. Now, for every one of them, there's 10 out there that try to do that and end up making The Room. Okay. Yeah. But that's what it takes, you know? And how many movies have we seen that were really good, could have been better, and then you find out, oh, they were going to do this, that, and the other, but they didn't because the studio said such and such, and oh, they just put out a director's cut. And yeah, that's actually a little bit better, you know?
Uh-huh. I'm thinking back to where you're saying they didn't use the Time After Time song. They could have used that when she met Steve Trevor again, right? Oh, which was in the trailer.
Anyway. Oh, that's the other. Oh. So okay, here I am going to get into a little bit of spoiler territory.
Okay, cover your ears. I know what he's going to mention. Okay,
but I think this is a pretty minor spoiler. This has more to do with character development than it has to do with plot points.
Okay,
but apparently them bringing him back, and this was all talked about long before the movie, while the movie was in hiatus and not even being filmed and just being rumored, that it was a big wish machine that brings back Steve Trevor. and he doesn't come back. He comes back a la Quantum Leap. He's not actually in his own body. He's in somebody else's body. So I don't remember if it was the Mary Sue or one of those left-wing feminist outlets was like, we really need to talk about how problematic it is that Steve Trevor comes back, takes over someone else's body. That person has absolutely no agency for the whole time that the movie's happening. You know, Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor have a physical relationship that the person whose body that is has no agency over. And it's like, you know, they're kind of not wrong when you think about it. That's pretty icky when you think about it.
This whole movie sounds goofy to me.
It absolutely is. This is everything that's wrong with people doing these kinds of movies. I mean, this is not the level of superhero story that you're looking for anymore. You don't see anything like this over on the Marvel side. You go over on the Marvel side, there's an explanation for how the MacGuffin works, whether it's Mjolnir or it's the time travel device of the, you know, magic is actually technology, whatever it is. This is just magical, mystical. We make a wish, and I mean, it's the way fan fiction works. You know, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Yeah, Auditor Dredd, you hit it right on the head. Me too, random guy's body. Exactly. That's exactly right. I don't think he's even given a name from what I've heard.
Well, like I said, he'll get his own spin-off series on HBO Max. The nameless guy I don't know. I'm throwing things out there. No, I was thinking if I was an executive selling this, I was going to say we can do a Cheetah spin-off series, you know?
Oh, and let's talk a little bit about Cheetah. I have seen the footage of Cheetah. It's every bit as bad as the Cats movie. Oh my gosh. How could you sit on this movie for as long as you did and not have better graphics? I mean, you were sitting around with this thing, not getting released. Why didn't you tweak it while you were sitting on it?
One thing I don't understand, like people out there, they say, I want practical effects back. I hate CG. But I keep thinking, is it CG you hate, or is it all the bad CG that's in movies? Okay?
Exactly.
Like good CG, like in something like Battle Angel Alita. I mean, that's state of the art. Okay, that looks good. Okay.
Better than that, there are films that have used CG that you don't even realize it's CG. That is good CG. And that's the problem. You don't even realize it. You think it's a practical effect. Actually, some of the stuff you saw in Jurassic Park that you thought was CG was actually practical effects.
Right.
And that's why it was so good. You got to know, what did we always used to say in shop class? The right tool for the right job. Don't try to drive a screw with a hammer. Okay. That's what movie makers have to understand. There's a time to use CG. There's a time to use practical effects. And there's absolutely a time to use both. You know, sometimes all you're doing with the CG is taking out that little wire so that they don't see it.
Peter Jackson, I thought, had a good balance with the Lord of the Rings movies between the practical and the CG.
Usually. Yeah, usually.
I think they said toward the last one he started getting a little overindulgent, but especially in that first one, I thought he used it where it was smart to use it and didn't use it. But I'm trying to think, though. Do you think they're really going to go for a Wonder Woman 3, or are they just talking?
Wait a minute. I want to comment on Daniel Herron's comment. Gal Gadot can use my body. Yeah, but here's the problem. Random guy whose body got used doesn't even remember it. That's the crummy part. In fact, apparently there's a scene towards the end where she's kind of hitting on him and he's kind of hitting on her back, not knowing he's already been with her. That sucks. I don't know.
Oh, I like back to the drawing board's comment. People don't realize that a director that can't use CG won't do any better with practical effects. Yep.
That's true.
I can see that. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Because look at how George Lucas told the story, right? He wrote the story irrespective of what was capable of being done. And then when he got to the filming part, he's like, how can we make this happen? And sometimes he invented a new way of portraying the story. And sometimes he'd say, okay, I guess we just can't do this. We'll have to do something else. You know, Steven Spielberg, the same thing when he did Jaws, right? He wrote his story irrespective of how he was going to show it. And then when he got to it, he's like, this shark is not working. We're going to have to do something else. And it ended up being better. It was the Alfred Hitchcock effect. It's not what you show, it's what you make the audience think they're seeing.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. But, you know, nobody's listening to us. Nobody's listening to anybody. They keep doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results. And here the internet is blowing up, telling them what they're doing wrong, and they're just not listening. And they're saying you're all just incels and you're ists and phobes and just it's all your fault. Okay, but fine.
Everybody seems disappointed by this particular movie, though. On any side, yeah, it's just this is like a delightful cherry on top of 2020. It's like the most anticipated video game turned out to be a.
So what you're saying is it's a win. It actually brought us all together.
Yeah. Like I said, they say we're going to get that third movie. We'll see. Like, how do you judge if this is a success, though? Because what are they trying to get from it? Because they'll probably say, well, you know, it's not about the box office at this point because it's going straight to streaming. Is this causing people to subscribe more to HBO Max than they would have?
Nope. It's not. I mean, because the numbers just
aren't. Can you prove it, though?
Well, that's just it. You can't prove it. They can still argue that they are and maybe get more investment dollars. But I think even the investors are starting to get a little bit concerned and go, you say that, but I'm not so sure. You know? And when that money starts to dry up, then the bubble bursts, right? Then Enron happens. You know?
Yeah, well, okay. So when are you going to watch Wonder Woman 84? Never.
Well, but see, I have not been watching any of the Snyderverse films. I had refused. I have not watched. I didn't watch since Man of Steel. I have not invested, and I'm not going to.
I haven't seen Suicide Squad or Birds of Prey.
You're not the only one. Most people didn't.
Okay. I did see Shazam. I really wanted to like that movie. It had good things in it. That's the sad thing about some of the Snyderverse films. You can see where it could have been great. Okay.
Were you looking forward to Birds of Prey 2?
Well, yes. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead. We're leading into our next story.
Yeah, because Birds of Prey 2 is not happening. Shocker. Big surprise there.
I didn't even know Birds of Prey 2 was even something in the document. Whenever anyone says Birds of Prey 2, my mind immediately thinks that other Suicide Squad movie they're doing because I just think of Harley Quinn when I think of Birds of Prey because I didn't bother seeing the movie.
Well,
so I think what got canceled, the Suicide Squad? Oh, no, that's a different movie. Yeah. So this has been another Birds of Prey movie with like Black Canary.
A couple weeks back, some shill outlets said something about how Birds of Prey was the best superhero movie of 2020. And everyone's like, what the hell are you talking about? It was the only damn superhero movie of 2020 at that time.
Doesn't Sonic the Hedgehog count?
I don't think so. Would you consider him to be a superhero? He's more of a video game.
Well, I know, but he can run really fast.
Yeah, no, I don't think
evil mad scientist. I don't know.
So I'm sitting here laughing about Birds of Prey being the best superhero movie of 2020, and the argument was, but it lost money. Doesn't matter. It was the best superhero movie of 2020. We got to get ready for a sequel. And everyone laughed, and now it comes out officially. There won't be a Birds of Prey 2. Screen Rant and Games Radar, are running the article. They went to Margot Robbie and said, so what's up with Birds of Prey 2? She says, as far as I know, they're not even pursuing it. Okay, that's it. Done deal. No Birds of Prey 2. And nobody was shocked and nothing of importance was lost.
Yeah. I don't know. You had also sent me an older article about Warner's future plans for the DC movies, how they're all going to be standalone. And I realized that was an article from years ago, but it kind of was interesting to read because it kind of laid out how, like, years ago, people were excited about the Superman they had guest star on Supergirl.
Yeah.
And now no one cares. It's like,
yeah. And that's just it. The funny thing is they've flopped their CW. Their CW sucks. The Snyderverse has not been successful. And it's all been because they tried to do everything and nothing, right? They tried to throw everything together to make it a shared universe to match Marvel, but they weren't willing to put in the advanced work. So it was, the cart in front of the horse kind of a situation, and it all completely fell apart. The difference is what Marvel did was they had a bunch of separate movies that could stand on their own leading up to something. And when you start the momentum that way, then when you end up with okay, well, I didn't care for that Hulk movie, but I like this Thor movie. I like this Iron Man movie, but I didn't really much care for this other one here. Doesn't matter. You're still probably going to see it because you just want to. That's the only reason that Captain Marvel got any, viewership, was because people felt like, well, I got to see it because it's taking place in between Infinity War and Endgame, Only come to find out now, I guess I didn't really need to, but, but it pulled a profit because of that. That's the benefit of that shared universe. Unfortunately, they didn't build up that momentum to start with, so everything had to hit, and none of it did. Every movie did poorly.
Their idea was to start off with the Justice League and then to expand out from that, like do the reverse, right?
Yeah, which is never going to work. That's not how the Justice League was established in the first place. And it doesn't make any logical sense, right? It's like talking about my college years and then going back and talking about the Wonder Years. No, nobody cares. They want to move on and move forward. They don't want to go back.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about the Justice League if they don't care about Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman to begin with, let alone Cyborg and Flash.
Yeah. Trooper F92525. He made a point. Shazam's a fun film, had a lot of heart. It's about family. The aspect of that movie that was about the family, that's the part of the movie I liked. And there was actually a really neat scene toward the end. I'm not going to spoil it, anyone inclined, where I'm not going to spoil it, but the family scene at the end is actually, that was the highlight of that movie. But yeah, I don't know. Aquaman was a big hit. I think Shazam was a big hit, but since then, I don't know what's happened since then. But
you almost have to qualify big hit. Is it a big hit in terms of comparison to the other Warner Brothers films, or is it a big hit like, the Marvel films were a big hit? That's two very different things.
Yeah. Well, Aquaman was a big deal. Aquaman had the fortune of coming out. Disney did not have a Star Wars movie out that fall, and I don't think they had a Marvel movie out either. So I think Aquaman scooped a lot of stuff up box office wise. It also did very well in China. They actually said the last movie that did really good box office in China was The Meg. That one about the giant shark with Jason Statham. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe maybe do aquatic movies for China. What do you think?
Well, I don't know, but do you think that can be reproduced? Because
you mean if Aquaman 2 comes out, is it going to do the same numbers that it did? In fact, they are doing an Aquaman.
It's a very different world now. It's a very different market in China. It's a very different market here in the United States. And we're already batting 0 for 2, because if everything goes the way we've been talking, they're not going to do well in China if there's another movie being released in China the same week as Aquaman 2. And I don't think anyone's going to go see it here in the States with the whole Amber Heard thing going on.
It depends on how much they downplay her, I guess. I don't know. That's a bit of a mess, but we have other messy actors to talk about tonight later on. But
yeah, we'll get to that too. But I don't know. Hollywood is a mess. It really is. And unfortunately, I hate to keep talking about it every week, but that seems to be pretty much the state of entertainment now. It's a mess, and we've got to report on it. We still have articles coming out about, Me Too this and, Time's Up that. And I mean, even the classy ones like Gal Gadot are coming out and talking about, Joss Whedon, wasn't a very good experience. I mean, it's not like she's been a big crusader on this regard, but, they got her to talk about it. And she didn't have a very good experience on the Justice League set with him. And she's willing to talk about it a little bit. So I don't know.
leaiplussize says, I don't think Hollywood is a happy place right now.
Hollywood has never been a happy place. People have just believed that it was.
One thing I did notice this year, though, is that I think one of the reasons we sometimes maybe cut actors more slack than we should is because they're also often entertaining us. So, as long as I can go see Ford versus Ferrari and Matt Damon's, if he puts in a good performance, I tend to think more.
I have always been a big one for, I don't care what their politics are. I don't care what any of that stuff, as long as they're making good movies. The problem is they're not making good movies anymore.
Well, we were mentioning this on the Danielle Heron stream the other week, the last week. There hasn't been this big cultural moment this year. Okay. No. What's come out? We had a couple of streaming series,
Sonic the Hedgehog
still going strong. Sonic the Hedgehog, Bad Boys for Life, and the Blumhouse Fantasy Island remake, which I keep bringing up because it was interesting. Okay, anyway,
I see. I didn't even know that had happened. I heard talk about it.
It's so bad. It's Fantasy Island reimagined as a horror movie. Okay.
Didn't someone do like the Banana Splits reimagined as a horror movie too?
I don't know. That I kind of want to see though. Okay. I don't know though, but I was trying to make a point though, is that they just haven't been doing anything this year. And I was reading that awful Time. We have it where I work. So I was reading the Time magazine where it's all the people of the year, right? And Entertainment of the Year was a Korean boy band. So I guess that shows how much Hollywood has been influencing anything this year. Okay.
Well, what entertainment have people been talking about? I mean, besides us, just in general, The Boys and The Mandalorian. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, Fargo had a new season, but I didn't hear anybody talking about that either. I don't know if that was a hit or not.
I never actually saw any of that.
No.
Never saw any of that. I saw the movie. That's it.
Did you like the movie?
Oh, yeah.
You'll probably like the shows too. I haven't watched this latest season though. But yes, they did. It was Five Nights at Freddy's with fruit. Weren't you playing Five Nights at Freddy's recently?
I don't even know what that means.
I don't know. The banana splits, right? I'm assuming the bananas
with fruit. Okay, I get it now. Okay.
I actually think that was the idea. They did want to do like a Five Guys at Freddy's sort of thing.
I'll tell you what. I've been following what is that, Matt Pat, the game theorist, and all of his talk about, the storylines and fan theories about Five Nights at Freddy's and stuff. I tried playing the game once and got frustrated because I couldn't figure out the controls. But the basic idea was pretty sound. And then as I, find out about all the theories and stuff, I'm like, someone's got to make a movie out of this. And then I think twice and I go, yeah, no, they'll screw it up. So I don't know.
Jedi Master Zootopia says Cobra Kai was the best thing I saw this year.
A lot of people said that. I'm going to have to check that out.
I watched the first season. I have to watch the second season. I did enjoy it immensely. It was a nice return of these two characters, and they're acting how they should be acting even as adults.
Yeah.
And but neither of them get off on the best footing as a series. But by the end of the first season, they're kind of who we remember them as being.
Yeah.
But leaiplussize says the best thing about this year could be the return of Luke Skywalker in the Mando show. Just my thoughts. I guess a lot of people were happy about that. We'll see what happens with that in the future, but I don't know. 2021 is near us though, so maybe we'll talk about our predictions for next year. What do you think?
We could, but here's my thing. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to get through 2020. Once we get through 2020, everything will be so much better. Why? Why do you think because we changed the year on the calendar, anything's going to be different? I see
Because
it getting worse, to be honest with you.
probably. But anyway, what's our next story? Is this the Joss Whedon thing?
Let's see. Well, I kind of started on that a little bit. Gal Gadot getting, you know.
I always say Godot too, but I think it is Gadot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Okay.
What's this other one?
Hold on, I'll get it for you. It's the
Yeah, this one came from Digital Spy, although I'm sure there's other people carrying this one.
follow up to the Ray Fisher story we were doing a few weeks back.
Yeah. Basically saying, her particular experience was she didn't dig the whole joke about, the Flash landing on her, and she refused to do it. So it was her stunt double that had to do the whole,
Oh, was that what it was about?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, because in the article, I don't think it says. It just says I took it to the higher ups and they took care of it.
Yeah,
so
and that's how they took care of it. They said, okay, we'll just have, and I don't know. I mean, yeah, I get the impression that he's kind of a skis, and there's some stuff that's come out about him since his time on Buffy and whatnot. And it's like, again, I mean, this is Hollywood for you. And this is what you get into. And this is not anything new. And everyone's pointing at Weinstein. And I point back at everyone around Weinstein and say, look, you guys knew about this and you kept it quiet because you're a bunch of effing hypocrites.
Oh, well, the whole Time's Up thing, that turned out to be a fiasco. We were actually going to do a story on that a couple weeks ago, but we just had too much other stuff to cover, where basically the charity is not really a spending money on the women who actually need the help, legal help. It all went to pay for
people.
Fancy
You need to understand that when you look at the title of an organization, you think that for some reason you believe that you can judge the book by its cover. I'm sorry, if an organization says, therefore, women's rights, women that have been, subjugated and hurt by men and this and that, yeah, don't look at what they claim. Look at what they actually do. If an organization says we are anti-fascist, take a look and see if they really are, or if they're employing fascist strategies themselves, and if they're saying somebody's lives matter, but they're not made up of those people, maybe think through their actual motivations. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't know, though. Getting back to what Gal Gadot was saying, though, she was praising Ray Fisher, saying that that it was great that he was saying his truth. What did you take that to mean?
I automatically tune out as soon as someone says something about their truth. It means you don't even understand what the word truth means.
Yeah, because
the truth is the truth,
yes,
regardless of who says it.
Yes. So is this like
my truth is that I'm the president of the United States. I'm a multi-millionaire, and I'm up for dictator of the world. That's my truth.
Yeah,
people are dumbasses. They really are.
But yeah, it's important.
I don't really care what her experience is, but it does sound pretty much in keeping with what I've heard. It's important to keep in mind, progressives are people who believe that narrative shapes reality. If you put reality first, you can't trust their narrative until you fact check it. Yeah, but you actually have to fact check it. Don't believe someone that calls themselves fact check. Again, look at the results, not the name.
Oh, Auditor Dredd says, I never doubted you as a dictator of the world, Troy Pacelli.
And the reason I bring that one up, this is before all y'all's time, but there was this cartoon back when I was a kid. It's called Underdog. And it was kind of a parody of Superman, and it was about a dog who anthropomorphized animals, and the dog was like Superman, right? And his arch nemesis, think of him as like the Lex Luthor type, was literally going door to door, campaigning for people to vote for him for dictator. hello, I'm, Lex Luthor, or whatever his name is, and I came to ask for your vote for dictator. And of course, everyone's slamming the door in his face. And it's all just a big joke. But I always said, that's just it, right? I mean, I want you to vote for me for dictator. Little did I know that come 2020, that's actually how it was going to turn out, and when you look at how dictators come to power, that's kind of how it actually happens. Not as funny as I thought it was, but okay.
Well, not much about 2020 has been funny.
No, absolutely not.
But yeah, I'm just telling you though, culturally though, the landscape, it's nothing's happening.
Nope. Okay. You're absolutely right. But what we can say is that 2021 is going to be a very different landscape. We're already talking about how there aren't going to be cinemas. Now we also have to start talking about how there aren't going to be any comics anymore.
This has been a long time coming, though. I would think this would have happened.
This should not be a shocker. Anyone who has been paying any attention and listening to anybody who knew what they were talking about has been hearing this over and over and over again. Uncle Ethan has been saying it time and time again, and I'll be honest, he has not been wrong, But yeah, so now there's a big comic book shop out of Anaheim, Pop Comics. They posted on their Facebook page, and Uncle Ethan was talking about this. He said they made the announcement that they will no longer be carrying DC Comics. Think about that. Think about any comic book store deciding not to carry DC Comics. That's a huge deal. And I don't think they're going to be the last. I think they're just the first that we know of. Other comic book stores are going to start following suit.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is I was reading the statement. They've made a public statement on Facebook about this. And they were making a point that they lost Diamond. No, not Diamond. What was the first distributor called?
Wasn't it Diamond?
It was Diamond. Okay, maybe I'm just confusing them with okay. They went with Diamond, and then that went away, and they were forced to choose with two competitors. So they picked one, and now the other choice they made is now out, and they have to go with with the last choice, and they're done.
Yeah, let me just read what they said. First big news up today is a doozy. Pop Comics has decided that we will no longer be carrying DC Comics periodicals, monthly comics. As many of you are well aware, DC decided to cut ties with Diamond Comics earlier this year. What ensued was literally 6 months of chaos for comic retailers. Non-stop chaos. There will be books about this someday, or at least chapters within books about it. They're being hyperbolic. I'm sure there won't be, but I get what they're saying. Their brilliant, self-interested solution was to make all U.S. comics retailers buy their comics through two of our largest competitors within the industry. Yeah, not ideal. But we ultimately caved, and we chose one of them, and things ended up going well enough. Well, now the one that we chose in that ultimatum has decided that DC Comics are not actually worth their time to distribute, which once again puts all the retailers who ultimately acquiesced and participated in their janky plan and chose that particular competitor distributor are now being forced to the other competitor distributor. No other option. Use another new distributor you don't want to use, or don't carry our comics. Okay, then we're out. The previous force change nearly doubled our DC Comics workload and cost just to put the same products we've been carrying for almost 20 years on our shelves. We've just reached the point where we are no longer willing to care more about getting their product on our shelves than they are. There's no better way to say it.
I think they can't be making money off of these comics. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about the comic.
And what they're not even addressing here is what a lot of Comic Artist Pro, including Uncle Ethan, have been saying. DC Comics are not selling well enough to merit this kind of grief. And so Pop Comics just said, we're done. We're getting out of it. It's going to take the smaller comic distributors and sellers a little bit longer because they kind of feel like they don't have a choice. But eventually they're going to either have to say, no, we're going to go this route and not carry DC Comics, or they won't be carrying DC Comics because they're going to be going out of business. I mean, they're barely making ends meet to begin with. I know my local comic book seller, Keats Comics, here in Schaumburg, they're barely holding on. They're months behind on their rent.
That's terrible.
I'm going in and buying up old back issues, anything that I can think of that I might possibly want, trying to help keep them afloat. Not that we have, a lot of solvency, but we're doing what we can. But they're probably not going to last. Most companies aren't.
It's like movie theaters. You don't have a place to sell your wares.
Yeah.
I mean. And Jedi Master Zootopia says, this actually gives me hope that they will license DC Comics to an outside company who will kick out the current creators and give back to servicing the fans. We'll see. I mean, I've heard this said even about Marvel Comics too, that eventually Disney might license it out, but I don't know.
Well, over on the Marvel side, I was watching a bit about Ms. Marvel and their relaunch on her, and was talking with Boomer about this between shows, and I said they really don't care about how the comic books do. They'll put these comic books out there and publish them, and they don't care if they take a loss on them. They're only doing it to keep the characters in publication so they continue to own the rights of these characters.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned that on the stream the other week. It was in our Marvel talk, because I was bringing up the whole how they're doing the Ms. Marvel television series, and I was thinking, is this they're trying to get the CW audience? But then you mentioned that it was a no, this is because you don't want anyone else picking up the name Ms. Marvel.
Right. So everybody at this point probably knows, Captain Marvel, Shazam, and Captain Marvel, Captain Manhater over on the Marvel side. But that whole history of how Marvel ended up with Captain Marvel, and they got it from Fawcett Comics, which was bought by DC. Very, very interesting intellectual property rights issue. But now that Marvel Comics owns Captain Marvel name, they are going to keep that name in production constantly so as not to lose it, because DC would love to get Captain Marvel back, the name, not the character. They don't care about the character.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm just thinking though, no one thinks that I don't think anybody thinks that DC will be making periodical comics by the end of 2021.
Yeah, but like I said, like someone else said about another company distributing them, that might be the way to go, because again, you can keep it in production, maybe make a little bit of licensing money off of it, when what you're really looking to do is, how can I mine these intellectual properties for our movies, our TV shows, our whatever.
So a third wave of job cuts in the new year for DC Comics and Warner's.
Yep, this one's coming from Bleeding Cool. Although there's been a bunch of others, you could just look at it. Yep, there's been cut after cut after cut at DC Comics. There's a whole list of who is getting chopped. A lot of people I don't even know, but on every level, they're just cutting. And look, this from whatever industry you're in. Wherever you work, wherever you have worked, what it's like. You cut a third of your workforce, the other 2/3 have to pick up the slack, right? And then you cut some more, and it gets to the point where you can't keep up anymore, and everything starts to suffer. So business gets worse and worse and worse. It's this downward spiral that you see from all these different businesses. And we see this is the death throes for the comic book industry. That's the simple truth of it. There's really no way around it. In fact, I think this goes hand in hand with the other one. DC cancels orders for Zatanna, the Jewel of the Gravesend graphic novel. So we've all been talking, not specifically about Zatanna, but everybody's been talking about these YA, graphic novels that DC has been doing. I Am Not Starfire and all this kind of stuff. And people have been ripping it apart going, who the heck is the audience for this? Right. Well, apparently whoever they think their audience is isn't buying because they're canceling them. Nobody cares.
Yeah, and I almost kept wondering, why do these things exist? Part of me almost thought that are they like putting these on the market to see what sticks, to see. I mean, I guess they actually no. In Warner Brothers, in DC's case, they are actually trying to sell the book. Okay.
Yeah, well, in theory, I mean,
because I was thinking a new hit CW show, Zatanna. Okay, Jewel of Graveyard, because it's young adults, so it's for teenagers. But I don't know. I'm just thinking.
Yeah, there's I sent you a
yeah, I did start watching that. Yeah,
so there's a YouTuber, Casually Comics, hosted by Sasha Wood. She's awesome. And Netter loves her. She goes back and does old Golden Age and Silver Age storylines, and some of them are ridiculous, and she picks them apart and makes jokes about them, and it's a lot of fun. And she talks about things going on in the industry too, and she tends to be pretty even-handed. She'll, use phrases like, and your mileage may vary and da, 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 da. But she gives some great insights. And one of the things she was talking about was some of the Marvel titles about their young adult, and she even said that a lot of people are saying the same thing that we just got through saying, who is the audience for this? Because it's not fans, because they're like creating continuity out of whole cloth that doesn't fit, so the fans don't like it. In theory, it's a new audience that you're trying to bring in, but because it is so separated from the rest of continuity, if you bring in an audience that likes these graphic novels or whatever, they're going to be very disappointed when they go try to read the mainline stuff. And then when they jump into the community and start saying, hey, I came here because of this young adult book, people start, ripping on them, saying, yeah, you're not a fan. You have no idea what you're talking about. Go somewhere else, which is not very inviting to a new audience member. So
all the Gotham High fans would not be welcome in the Batman fan community.
She uses that as one of her examples. Like, who is it for? It's clearly not for... But then she always tempers it, but your mileage may vary.
Okay.
On the possibility you might be the one in 100 that actually did like the thing, but yeah, when you see that these things are getting canceled left, right, and center, it's you get your answer. Who is your audience? You don't have an audience for it. You're, trying to pad your resume and make yourself feel good, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's like that meme with Nedry, Hey, they're making young adult comics over here that nobody wants to buy. See, nobody cares,
Yeah, it says, Brian Gilmartin says, DC's attempt to appeal to the young adult crowd is just trying to fit a round peg into a square hole.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. It's like, here's the keys to this, this awesome car, but there is no car for you to put the key into.
Why not just create an original property in the YA graphic novels? Okay. And maybe you could even relate it to the larger DC universe, but this would be its own thing, right?
Boomer, that makes too darn much sense.
Okay.
So it's not gonna ever happen.
Because if they're going to deviate this much anyway.
Yeah. make a new character, right?
Yeah.
So what it's become is, a lot of this has become like what ifs, but it's like what ifs for, this particular age group. And the problem with it is, when you create a what if, you have nowhere to go with it. If you're a big fan of Gotham by Gaslight, you have one really good comic that you can enjoy and two sequels that kind of suck. And that's not necessarily going to get you into Batman. Elseworld has always been for people that enjoy Batman already, but want to see a what if. What if he was set in the 1800s? What if he, what if Clark Kent became Batman? What if,
Or what if Superman landed in the Soviet Union or something?
Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that. And for a one-off, it's a fun little romp, and we're done. But when you do this and you're trying to build an audience, that's not how you do it. It does not work.
Right. Yeah, I kind of liked the animated film Justice League Gods and Monsters. People in this community might be split on that one, but I thought it was interesting because it was the three main DC superheroes, but they weren't the heroes we knew. It was like a different character as Superman, a different character as Batman, and it had more of a pulpy edge to it. But again, that's good for a one-off, But
yeah, and I can't comment on it because I don't even know what that is. But
okay. It was interesting. It's like,
actually,
what if?
You know what? I just realized, and what you're talking about, and of course, Wolf 10 Media just brought up Elseworlds too. This is what Marvel is basically getting into as they're creating their animated What If series on the streaming service. There's an assumption that you've already seen the movies or you already know these characters. So when we change it up and we do a what if, you go, okay, I see what they're doing there. I see they're making Peggy Carter the Captain Britain character, as if she was the one that got the super soldier serum instead of
Well, I almost had the idea from that trailer that she was saying we already have a super soldier, and I was thinking that maybe the point of that is that the scientist doesn't die. Do you understand?
Yeah.
They decide, let's try this again on somebody else, okay? And because they were planning to make a bunch of cat.
But then when they showed her with him with Steve, he's still that scrawny kid. So now my question is, okay, so somehow he's still a part of her life. That's kind of sweet, but how does that work out?
I have no idea.
How does that hot, Peggy Carter take up with this scrawny little kid? Then she becomes, super powered, super Peggy Carter, and she's still in with the scrawny kid. I mean, it's, but then again, Nanette ended up with me, so I guess I really shouldn't pick at those threads too much.
Gotcha. Oh, my thing was making a noise. Sorry about that. Okay.
But yeah. So
Wolfton says, Batman was Man-Bat was the scientist who becomes the Man-Bat. He was the Batman in that universe. And Wonder Woman was one of the new gods, and Kal-El was General Zod's. Was actually General. It was General Zod's. The Kryptonian was General Zod's son. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Never mind. Okay, but should we move on to something that you and I don't talk too much about on this program?
I don't even know how much interest there is on this particular topic, but let's go ahead and because I've been putting it on the thumbnail like every week for months, and it seems to be the one that we drop when we get to the end of the show, but we're actually going to talk about it tonight, right?
Part of the reason why I do not like to talk about this subject matter is because it's kind of dead to me, but I was a fan, and let's be blunt, out of the big three, if we're talking about the big three science fiction properties that are probably Star Wars, Star Trek, and Doctor Who used to be my favorite. Okay.
Yeah.
I was a big fan when I was a kid. Back when, I used to watch the old Tom Baker episodes. Peter Davidson was a big deal in the 80s. So was Colin Baker. And then, well, I'll talk about that in a little bit too. But we're talking about Doctor Who. Okay.
Yep. And article came out from thethings.com. Doctor Who fans think the show is now a waste of time and space. And it really is true. The fans are not watching the show anymore. There was an article talking about how the Facebook presence, the social media presence for the fans has been diminishing. People are leaving groups left and right.
Wow.
There is no longer an interest in Doctor Who. Chibnall has effectively killed the Doctor by making the Doctor immortal.
Yeah.
Because now it doesn't matter. Now there's no stakes. Now the Doctor has always existed and will always exist. And, regeneration is meaningless, and she's got infinite regenerations, and who cares anymore?
Yeah. Doctor Who was called a waste of time and space.
Yep.
That was the name of the article. Ratings have consistently fallen throughout the Chibnall-Whittaker era of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm assuming these are, I'm assuming they're talking about just Britain, Great Britain, or are they talking about the United States as well, or North America, I should say.
All of it. And the worst is Britain, because that's where you got to do well. If you're not doing well in Britain, it almost doesn't matter what's happening in the States. But yeah, they've lost their fan base entirely. Nobody cares about this show. What I would suggest to you, Boomer, maybe share that tweet that I gave you there.
The tweet.
Yeah. So
Doing
the second bullet point there. Yeah.
All right.
Do you know how to do that?
Well,
we're getting technical here. I know you're a boomer.
I know. I have to get on my email, then go to the article, right? Okay. But keep talking, okay? Let me bring up this next point.
Actually, I wonder if I can
you want to try it?
Like where I share screen? I don't know if I can share screen or not.
All right, hold on. I know I can do it, but let me just big fan of Doctor Who all throughout my life. I got very angry when the Jodie Whittaker was announced. Let me see. Doctor Who fans think the show is a waste of time. Is it this word? Oh, the tweet. That's what you want to show. Okay. Let me bring it up, and I will see if I can screen share. Get that out of here. Get rid of the school bell. And let me see if I can do a share screen.
Do you have the tweet up?
I have it up in another window. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's what you need.
All right,
I think that's what
happens. Your entire screen, application window, Chrome tab. I'm just going to do
probably Chrome tab.
Do Chrome tab. And Doctor Who Twitter, share.
There you go.
All right.
Have you ever been limited by who you were before? This is the message that they send out about Doctor Who. And then they have pictured behind her. Go ahead and click on that picture. It's the picture of all the doctors before her, including Ruth, including this other doctor that, they've now decided to insinuate into continuity. Have you ever been limited by who you were before? I can't imagine a greater insult. You have literally insulted every fan, regardless of who their favorite doctor has been. What you're basically saying is, sorry, remember when first season she had an upgrade because she became a woman? Well, that's where they're still at. You don't like her, you shouldn't even be bothering. They're doubling down on this BS.
I like this one comment. Is this related to viewers? So you were limited when you had 10 million odd. So now you less than the people who work on the show watching. Now you have less than the people if you. Okay, well done destroying the longest running science fiction show in the world. Clap.
Yep, and this is on the Doctor Who Twitter page. I mean, this is the comments that they're getting. Brilliant. This is them just doubling down on flushing. You know how when you flush and something backs up and you got to flush again? That's what they're basically doing here.
Yeah. Fans want Chibnall to return the reins to showrunner Stephen Moffat.
Yep.
I had issues with the Moffat era. Did you?
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, he was head and shoulders better than Chibnall.
Well, yeah.
Personally, I'd like to see it go back to Russell Davies.
Yeah, Russell Davies was the best of the newer guys. But yeah, I don't know. Moffat, I think he was the first one that started trolling the audience. Now, he would do it with stuff like Sonic sunglasses. Yeah. It wasn't as overt as something like this.
And it wasn't anything terrible. And especially in context of the Doctor, you could say what you want about Sonic sunglasses, but what it comes down to is the Doctor being able to take his Sonic screwdriver and put it into a pair of sunglasses. I should think the Doctor could do something like that. Probably, if he was so inclined on a lark, sure, why not? You know, it's silly, it's irreverent, it's goofy, but what's the difference if it's in a pair of glasses or a little pen? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, another issue I had, actually, I did like the second Capaldi season, and I know some people had issues with that season, but I enjoyed it because it kind of was a harkening back to a lot of the stuff I had back in the 80s where they were these big, long episodes they used to do, like were in 4 parts.
Yeah.
So basically, they were around 90 minutes each for each story, and that's sort of what they did in that second Capaldi season. But
Well, and see, I think what you hit on is spot on there. I mean, Stephen Moffat really knew his stuff when it came to the lore. So
that's
he
true.
knew what to play around with, what threads to tug on, what to harken back to, what fans would enjoy.
Yeah,
Did he? Hmm?
He knew a lot of stuff from the Troughton era, actually.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
Great Intelligence showed up.
Sometimes he did some really, really deep dives.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff works really well for longtime fans and for new fans that are going to be interested. Because just because you've never seen an episode of the Troughton era doesn't mean you don't have perfectly easy access to Wikipedia and TARDISpedia or whatever it's called. I mean, it's all out there for you to find.
Actually,
Simple enough.
I will say this. One thing I always found interesting about what they did with Doctor Who, they novelized every episode of the old show.
Yeah,
Because
they did.
I think the idea was if you were a fan, you could go out and buy the novel. Because in England, they never reran an episode. Did you know that?
That's exactly why so many episodes have now been lost. If the reels that were sent to like New Zealand or even sometimes the US or wherever weren't held there and not destroyed, they would go back to the BBC, and the BBC would take a videotape and wipe it to put something else on, because the way licensing worked back then, you showed it once and that was it.
Yeah.
So there was no sense saving that videotape that you could reuse for something else.
I think they found the Tomb of the Cybermen in an old church, I think.
Yeah,
Of all places, or the
there are
monastery.
some great stories about pieces that have been, and what is available is the audio for every single episode exists, because there were fans in the days before there were VCRs. There was audio recorders, and they would start recording right in front of their television, record all of that audio and hold on to it. And there was a call by the BBC saying, look, we know that technically that's not supposed to be legal, but we don't have any issue if you are willing to, send us your audio recordings of the lost episodes. We would like to make use of them. And what they did was they took people's audios, found the best ones, digitally remastered them, and released them all on CDs. So all of the audio for every single episode exists.
Yeah,
and in some cases, they have restored them by syncing up the audio with new animation.
Yeah, I heard one of those audio ones. I think they got Fraser Hines to fill in the blanks when you couldn't see it was on. When obviously you needed a description of what was going on.
Yeah, you need a narrator to say what's happening.
The episode was a Troughton era episode.
Yeah,
Jamie was a great companion. I did see him briefly, but I was a huge fan of Doctor Who when I was a kid, though. Did you watch it back in the old days before even Davies brought it back?
Well, I did start with the as you said, the Tom Baker era.
Yeah,
but during the Tom Baker era, you would watch however many episodes had come out, and here on PBS, they always wanted the slot to remain open. So what they do is they would back up when they ran out of episodes, and then they'd show the third Doctor, or they'd show, if they had any, the first and second Doctor once in a while. But it was mostly the third Doctor was the filler in between episodes of the fourth Doctor, and then they kind of carried on from there. I kind of stopped watching after the Colin Baker era, because let's face it, most fans didn't care for Colin Baker. A lot of people stepped off there, and so I had missed out on Sylvester McCoy during the initial run. And then once the 90s hit and we got the Fox movie with what's his name, Paul McGann, I started going back, and that's when I caught up on no, Paul McGann. I met Paul McGann. And then eventually Eccleston, and then eventually Tom Baker. But yeah, after Paul McGann, I was like, oh, okay. So I saw, Sylvester McCoy at the beginning of that. And I'm like, okay, let me go back and watch his episodes. And they actually had some ideas for him that could have been actually really, really good that never, got to fruition, but he wasn't a bad doctor.
The BBC had it in for that show during the McCoy era, even toward the end of the Colin Baker era. They were wanting to gut that series, and I nothing about this when I'm a kid living in the States, and I remember the last episode of the Sylvester McCoy Doctor aired, and it was like a year or 2 years later when I found out the show had been canceled because we didn't have internet access back then like we did now. So if a show went off the air, you're waiting for it to come back, and no.
But even then, well, no, actually, I had a buddy in high school who subscribed to Radio Times and the Doctor Who magazine, and so he did keep up with all of that information. It was just as good as having the internet today, and he knew that. Yeah, he said it hasn't been canceled officially, but there's no plans to make a new season. And back then he had all the episodes that had ever been aired on PBS recorded on Betamax, and so then when they started coming out on DVD and I was getting them, I was downloading the restored versions. There's all those lost episodes. A lot of them exist because fans have taken telesnaps and done like slideshows to make their own slideshow with the restored audio. And I've downloaded those and made them into DVDs and sent them out to them. So I on my channel, I even have a video about having done that and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, that's the fans, right? The fans have kept this alive. And again, it's like the BBC is going out of their way to kill the darn thing.
I have heard behind the scenes rumors, these are rumors, but that the current writers on Doctor Who have real contempt for the fans. I know, but I'm serious. I think they're a real nasty bunch just from things I've heard. I can't prove any of it, but even if you
don't need to, it's so obvious.
Yeah.
It is absolutely obvious. It's so clear. And I mean, how do you keep your job like that? Now you have people talking about, we don't even want to pay for our license anymore. We're not even watching TV anymore. BBC is going to go bankrupt.
And take the Doctor with them, I guess. Okay. But, yeah, it's just, I don't know.
Maybe I'll sell off the Doctor to Disney or something.
I mean, I remember when Doctor Who was in dire straits. Yeah, maybe. Actually, it's funny. Warner Brothers has more ties. I think they did some of the help with some of the distribution over here on DVD, but
true.
I don't know. I mean,
you're right. They did the distribution for the DVDs, but the made for TV movie with Paul McGann was done through Fox.
I remember that. I watched that when it aired too, because that was a big deal. I was like, oh, they're going to bring Doctor Who back.
Yep.
And they were going to do some things differently on that show. They were going to change the design of the Daleks. Did you know about that?
Yeah.
They're going to be spider Daleks. I have to admit, typically I would get angry about this sort of thing, but they did look terrifying. Oh,
yeah.
I think they had them in the comics,
I've always had this weird sense that the Daleks as a concept are far scarier than they actually look. I mean, if you look at them, they look like giant salt shakers. I mean, they do. Not with a plunger sticking out of their chest. It's like, what's so scary about that? But
now the BBC doesn't completely own the Daleks. They have a deal with the Terry Nation estate, correct?
That's right. And the way it works is it's basically like I was talking about with Ms. Marvel. You got to keep putting something out in order to hold on to those rights. So every couple of years, if they don't do something with the Daleks, they lose the right to use the Daleks.
That might be good if they did.
Oh gosh!
Based on the current state of the show, I don't know what they're going to be doing with the
problem.
Daleks.
Is that Doctor Who could never recoup the use of the Daleks if they let it go. So you end up with these stupid episodes like the holiday special from the first season of the first female doctor played by Jodie Whittaker, where they have the Dalek like the mutant insinuate itself into a human host or something. It's like, oh, this is so stupid.
You know what I think they did? They had did you watch they had I think they had like a conference call between or just a I don't know if I'm sounding dated. Probably a Zoom chat. Okay. I was gonna say Skype. Okay. And it was between Billy Piper and Matt Smith, and she was going,
I saw that, yeah.
And I think it's a New Year's special this year. Oh, that's a bit of a downgrade.
Oh, why? Why is it not Christmas? I guess they downgraded it.
Oh, no, that was an insult. Okay.
I love that. I laughed so hard when I saw that.
I don't know. They've done so much damage to the canon. I don't think that this show can recover. I mean, I'm trying to think of a way they can. I mean, they didn't just. I mean, they demolished it with that finale. I remember when you were talking to Al about that on when Office Hours was still going on. Remember that? And it was just from the way you described it. I don't think they can ever bring it back. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no. They've taken all of canon and completely thrown it out. And it's like, well, congratulations. You've lost all the fans that cared about this canon. Now you have a clean slate for nobody to care about. But it's a great jumping on point. You're driving around an empty bus that nobody wants to get on, but at least it's empty so people could get on it if they wanted to. It's not going anywhere. Nobody's waiting for that bus, and all you're doing is burning up fuel, but congratulations.
It's sad. I'm telling you, I was a huge fan of Doctor Who growing up, and I enjoyed the Davies revival. I was always more of a Cyberman fan than a Dalek fan, though. But
yeah,
they were more impressive in the 80s, I thought, the Cybermen.
And a little bit more menacing, too, I think.
Well, they could walk. Yeah,
well, that's true.
Now,
but the Daleks can fly.
They did. They finally fixed that. In fact, it's funny if you watch the Sylvester McCoy era, you do see in the Dalek episode there. I think a Dalek was actually able to start up the stairs by doing levit. So they were. I think they finally figured out that technology for the Daleks by the time they got to Sylvester McCoy. But
well, let's face it, that's another example of the special effects were terrible, but. Yeah. The story was still pretty darn good.
You watched it for the writing, and even some of the acting was usually pretty good too. They used to get a lot of BBC regulars on that show. So,
I mean, you think about it, just the story point. Oh, okay, I've run up the stairs, I'm safe, and then the thing starts to levitate, and you're like, uh-oh.
Well, it's funny because that was another that was a play on something that happened in one of the Tom Baker episodes. It says, yes, the superior race, the Daleks, and he ran up the stairs.
Yeah.
So then McCoy does the same thing, but then the Dalek is finally able to use some kind of levitation thing to get up the stairs. So
yep, and it makes perfect sense. I mean, and what's really cool is you go back to the first Doctor and the introduction of the Daleks. The original Daleks were even more limited than that because they had this little radar dish on their back that microwaves were beamed to them, and that's where they got their power from. So they couldn't go too far from their power source, and they had to travel around on magnetic rails. So the next time you see the Daleks and they don't have that anymore, it's like, wow, they got upgraded. Now they can leave Skaro. Now they can travel on any flat surface. And, as you continue and you build, now they can fly. Now they, have other options. That's technology. And that's unrelenting, progression that you just can't stop.
And then they figured out time travel.
That's even worse, right?
That was scary. That was always a big threat on the old Doctor Who show. Like the Centaurans were desperate for time travel. That was a big thing with the Centaurans too.
Exactly.
They had a great episode. They had a great Tom Baker episode where it starts out like the usual 4-parter. Tom Baker stops the bad aliens invading Gallifrey, and then there's a Centauran points a gun at him, and you realize this group was working for the Centaurans, and you're not done yet. And it flipped the audience. It ended up being a 6-part episode. You understand?
Yeah.
You realize the Centaurans.
That's a good subversion of expectations. Yeah. That's the way it's meant to be done.
Well, well, even the new series, like with Peter Capaldi, like that. Like his second season, Peter Capaldi's second season, where it starts out, and he shows up on that planet, and there's a horrible war going on. You see a little boy on the battlefield, and he says, "Come here, I'll help you." And he says, "What's your name, kid?" And he goes, Davros. Remember that?
Yeah.
You get goosebumps when you hear that name, and you're like, "What's the doctor going to do?"
Exactly. That's
going to leave him.
it. But this is the same doctor who, as Tom Baker, had the opportunity to go back in time and wipe out the Daleks before they became the Daleks, only to find out that in attempting to do that, that's what creates the Daleks and makes them enemies of the Time Lords, and his in particular.
Well, yeah, that happened too, because the what was it? The Time Lords foresaw a future where the Daleks had basically destroyed all life and accomplished what they were set out to do. And they said, you have to go back and do something to interfere with that. And the Time Lords would never interfere with time, but they made an exception here because the Daleks were just going to wipe everything out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it turns out they were responsible. That's the.
Well, that's how these things usually go. But anyway, I do miss the old Doctor Who. I don't think it's coming back, though. I can't, unless they do a hard reboot. And even if they do that, it's not going to be the same show. It's
getting harder and harder to say this, but I've been contending that the one upside to Doctor Who is there's always a way to finagle it and say through time travel and, just wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. You know what? Turns out all of this was a ruse. This wasn't true.
Yeah, like with Gallifrey getting destroyed, remember?
Right.
And then actually I give Moffat good credit. He figured out a way to make it so Gallifrey did not get destroyed and the Time Lords are still around. And then Chibnall comes along and, he does what he does.
Just pissed. I swear he literally just pissed all over everything. It's like, congratulations, you can argue and say, well, everyone's upset because the Doctor's a woman now. Nobody gave a flying fig. People care that you just decided to ruin everything else about the Doctor.
Yeah, well, they've made it a show nobody wants to watch anymore, and we'll see. Like I said, I don't know how it stays on the air, but I guess they're contracts. And I know when she goes to regenerate, I don't know what we're going to get next. It's just, it's. I don't think she'll last past the third season because no other Doctor has, really, if you think about it. I mean,
don't care. Haven't watched an episode since. I didn't watch anything.
Well, there hasn't been one since the finale that you saw. They're going to do a New Year's special. That's the next one they're doing. But all right. Well, speaking of train wrecks, do you want to move on to Shia LaBeouf?
Yeah. Why not?
Oh man. Okay.
So this one's from Variety. Inside Shia LaBeouf's career meltdown after sexual battery lawsuit.
Oh my goodness.
This guy is a train wreck.
Hired for Don't Worry, Darling. This is Olivia Wilde's second movie that she's directing.
Mm-hmm.
But Harry Styles is replacing him. And there is an FKA Twigs has a lawsuit against him for sexual battery. She wants a trial by jury in a civil suit. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So those can get pretty intense.
So I just have to wonder how he got the job in the first place, because this guy's been bad news for a very long time.
They said that it was kind of that he was redeeming himself, that it was like a redemption story. Okay. He had problems with, I guess, substance abuse. Wasn't that something that was going around? He was, in 2014, he was drunk in arrest for causing a disturbance while watching a Broadway performance of Cabaret. Huh. And in 2017, he was arrested for public intoxication, and he made racial remarks to a police officer. Okay.
Genius.
So, I don't know. And apparently he also was shooting at stray dogs with a gun.
Well, I'm done. That's all I needed to hear. Look, I've said this about many other things. When you go to the refrigerator and you take out the milk and you find it's all chunky because it's gone bad, you throw it away. You don't put it back in the refrigerator expecting it to get better tomorrow.
No.
That's all I'm saying. this Shiloh, whatever his name is a POS, and he's not going to change. Don't talk to me about redemption. Okay, let me see the redemption first. Then I'll say, okay, that's very impressive. Okay, I will draw the comparison to Robert Downey Jr. Okay, he comes back to Hollywood and he did redeem himself. It had already happened. He had already demonstrated it. And you look and you go, hey, good on you, man. That's pretty awesome. You cleaned up your act. You got your head out of your ass. And now you're the highest paid actor in Hollywood. Congratulations. Okay. But don't tell me I'm going to clean up my act. I don't want to hear it. Come talk to me when you have cleaned up your act. Other than that, there's plenty of other far more talented people out there that could be making movies right now.
Yeah, do you like him as an actor when he was in movies? I mean, he was in Indy 5, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. He was in 3 Transformers.
Yeah, that movie never happened, so I've never seen a movie with him.
Okay. I've always argued that Indiana Jones can survive a bad movie more so than other things because it's like James Bond. There have been James Bond films I haven't liked, but that's just a stupid adventure he went on. That's how I sum it up, and you can forget about it.
Yeah, that's true. You're absolutely
but
right.
Yeah, it was kind of a I don't know what was going on there. And they did 3 Transformers movies.
I saw none of those.
I got dragged to the theater to see parts 1 and 3. First time I was with my family, with my cousins were in town. They wanted to go see it, and apparently the
were you lost when you went to see the third one because you didn't see the second one?
I didn't care. I saw the first one. Apparently, the second one was the most. I don't know. They said people. I remember hearing one of the reviewers that were saying people are going to look back on this. Historians are going to look back on this. Like a century from now, and figure this was when Hollywood was so bloated and full of itself. Was when they made Transformers 2. And it's not like Michael Bay can't make a good movie. I did like 13 Hours. Did you see that one? The one about the Benghazi thing?
No.
Oh, it's actually rather good. It's about the Benghazi attack on the I believe the.
Well, of course it is. It's about explosions. I mean, it's got to be.
Yeah, but it was a real life story. It had what's his name? John Krasinski was in it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's worth checking out. It almost reminded me of Black Hawk Down a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But yeah, no. I haven't seen anything with Shia LaBeouf in it that I can think of anyway. So I don't see the big loss from Hollywood here.
I think he was another one of these child actors, and I don't know if that's a thing out there where they get a show on the Disney Channel. Yeah, LaBeouf first shot to fame at age 14 on the Disney Channel series Even Stevens. Throughout his 20s, he's continued to have a series of breakdowns and struggled with drugs and alcohol, an issue for many child actors to fight. But the industry's pushback to perpetrators of abuse has been clear in the Me Too era. So, yeah. And I don't know.
Yeah. I haven't seen the talent, so I haven't seen any reason to care.
All right. Well, you think he's done?
And if he's out there shooting at dogs, you know what? I couldn't care less about the guy then.
Yeah, he said he was trying to get into a part, but yeah, you don't do that. Okay.
Yeah. You lose any possible compassion you might have gotten from me when you pull that kind of stuff.
Okay. But
like I was saying too, I'm like, there's so many of these kind of POS useless waste of skin people in Hollywood. I think we should just put him together with Amber Heard, let them take care of each other.
Yeah. Oh, listen to this. Even after a 2015 altercation with his then girlfriend, actress Mia Goth, was caught on camera, LaBeouf continued to garner professional praise. In the footage, LaBeouf turned nearly violent and was heard telling strangers in the street in Germany, "If I'd have stayed there, I would have killed her." Okay.
Wow.
All right. I mean, this is almost reminding me of the Ezra Miller situation, which that never actually got addressed later on. Did you remember the video?
I have to wonder if Warner Brothers didn't somehow just quash all of that.
I think so, because they need him for the Flashpoint movie they're doing, right, where we get to see multiple Batmans, right?
Oh, yay! Looking
like we saw, we're going to see multiple Spider-Man in the.
I'm telling you, we're getting into the age of the multiverse, and I think that's going to go about as well as time travel. It's going to be a mess.
Do you know what's sad? I don't mind that always. I mean, heck, that's what Fringe was sort of about. You know, there was an alternate Earth. I mean, spoiler. I'm sorry.
I don't necessarily and let's face it, DC Comics has been predicated on the multiverse concept, but it is the more complicated your structure gets, the more engineering that has to go into it. Look at what Marvel did, okay? The multi-movie experience, you know, where this movie leads into that movie and so on and so forth. There was a continuity that needed to work, and the Easter eggs from this reference something else here, and you know, they were very consistent with it. But that all started to fall apart by Endgame. Endgame, they started messing around with time travel. Time travel rules that they set up weren't always consistent, and it became just a big clusterfuck. And it's just going to get worse as they start doing this multiverse crap. And I feel like the same thing has happened with the multiverse when it comes to the CW and Warner Bros. I mean, we've talked about this before in the comic books. If you go to an alternate Earth, okay, Superman still looks exactly like Superman. He's the same person, just a different quantum version. Okay. So if you were to translate that into the real world, it would have to be the same actor, right? So it would have to be, you know, if you have Ezra Miller playing the Flash in your movie and you want, you know, the Flash from an alternate Earth, it's got to be played by Ezra Miller. You know, it's got to be the same actor. When you choose a different actor, now it starts to fall apart and not make any sense anymore. Especially in the CW when you have Brandon Routh playing Superman in one universe and playing I don't know who was he, the Atom in another universe. It's like it doesn't make any sense.
No, but I'm sure they came up with some reason for why that was the case, right?
No.
Okay.
They even joked about it. They even said, you know, why does he look like, I don't know, quantum realities,
quantum entanglement syndrome or something? They just, I don't know.
I mean, it's
just take quantum or tachyon or actually, that was my dad's joke about TNG. It was always a tachyon issue. You know?
Yeah. Or you know, you can use the science of modern day Star Trek. It's space sonar.
Oh no, let's not talk about that. Star Trek's been rather quiet, so that's good.
Yeah,
because at least there's no more bad news anyway. But we'll see how this turns out.
That's what it was, right? Thank you, Melissa Harris.
I did like Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, the animated movie. That one was pretty good. But
well, it was animated. They looked exactly alike, and they had the same voice actors.
They had James Woods as Owlman, so that was neat.
Interesting.
All right.
That would have been what, Thomas Wayne?
Yes, Thomas Wayne Jr. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in that universe, Owlman is Thomas Wayne Jr., the older brother, I believe, of Bruce Wayne, who was gunned down, okay, by, I think, corrupt policemen. And then he turned to Boss Gordon, which was like Jim Gordon was a crime boss in charge of everybody. He ended up working for him. Do you understand? They reverse everything, I think. If I'm remembering right, you know, in that universe.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there have been different iterations of that Earth, so I tend to like swap and forget what's what. Like, wasn't that where instead of having George Washington on the dollar bill, they have Benedict Arnold?
Oh, maybe. I didn't think about that. That's funny, though.
And instead of saying "In God We Trust," it says like in Mammon something or other. It's like really, they really went for some weird stuff in the comics.
Oh, that's funny, though.
Yeah.
But what I thought was important, though, is that at least with the alternate selves, is it's not an evil Bruce Wayne. It's a brother he never had. it's not an evil Kal-El. It's a different Kryptonian that fell to Earth. I think you understand.
No. It's not even a Kryptonian. It's a human that gained superpowers from some sort of Kryptonian rock.
Oh, okay. See, I don't know. I can't keep up with all this lore. Okay.
But see, that's just it. The fans do, though. And then when you go and crap all over that, you kind of piss the fans off, you know?
And you get Wonder Woman 84. You there?
Yeah, you know, Wolf 10 was saying Superwoman was evil Mary Marvel, not Wonder Woman. But see, that's interesting because in the
she wasn't Wonder Woman, but I'm saying what the equivalent of Wonder Woman was when they did the intro and they showed her.
Superwoman in the comics was actually, wasn't she? I want to say she was like, was she Lois Lane, but she got powers or something, Amazonian powers or something like that. And she had a relationship with Owlman. I mean, it was very much like the boys' territory, you know.
Yeah, and they did that in the animated movie. Like, I didn't get the impression that she was an Amazon, but yeah, that makes sense now. And she was in a relationship with Owlman in that as well.
Yeah.
In
but
fact,
they were trying to hide it from Ultraman, but Ultraman knew about it. Yeah.
And like the Green Lantern in that world wasn't an evil Green Lantern. It was some other thing, and it was just. But I think he
was called Power Ring.
Yes,
and the Flash of their universe got his powers from taking a speed drug. I mean, I'll tell you what. The more I think about it, the more I think it's exactly like The Boys. Yeah. The Boys is absolutely a live action version of that incarnation of DC Comics.
Don't give Warner Brothers ideas. They'll try to do a live action series for HBO Max that's set on the Bad Earth.
Oh gosh. Well, but I can't see that happening because then they're just go, oh, we've already seen The Boys and you're ripping them off. And, you know, even though you did it first. But
okay. So does that about wrap it up? It's 11 o'clock. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Oh, we went a little long here. Okay.
Is Matchstick have a stream going tonight? I'm not sure if he does.
I don't know. Wolfie, is there a Weeb Watch going on tonight that you know of? Let us know so that we can send people over. But otherwise, and that was the end of our notes. I mean, there was something about Final Destination, but who cares?
Well, we can do it next week.
Yeah, it wasn't really big news anyway. It was just fun.
Well, hopefully not, because apparently Final Destination on Netflix has been censored since 2015. If you're in the Australian territory, Anyway, okay. Okay. All right, but I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff going on. Is everybody on vacation this week? Is Sound and Graver going to be there?
I think Sound and Graver has a regular show on Monday. Tuesday night is something on Professor Bible Geek. I think everyone's getting back into the swing of things. Wednesday night is there a Birdman?
We're going to be doing Batman Returns this week, and Professor Geek I think is going to be there as well. So
nice, there you go. And of course, Green Lion Girl with her game stream Wednesday night, always a lot of fun. Thursday night, if y'all are interested, that's New Year's Eve. If you guys have no other New Year's Eve plans and want to do a rewatch, I'm going to be doing a rewatch of It's a Wonderful Life. My hope is that leads us up to midnight, either in Central Time Zone or in the Eastern Time Zone, and we can all do the countdown together. That might be fun if you're so inclined. So
okay, cool.
Let's see, Thursday. I don't know about anything going on Friday. I don't know if Fan Man's doing stuff on Friday.
And then Saturday, is Al doing something?
Saturday, Al is doing a rewatch of I believe he's doing the original Robin Hood.
Okay, cool.
Kind of a little in remembrance of Olivia de Havilland.
All right, and then
that brings us right around to Sunday again.
Okay, cool. All right, well, thank you everybody for tuning in. And anything else to say, Troy?
Nope. Just subscribe to people's channels and hit that notification bell because I'm not I'm never 100% certain and things change, so it's the best way to keep up with who's doing what throughout the week.
All right. Well, have a good night, everybody. Happy New Year. I won't see you again until the new year. So 2021, looking forward to it.
Happy New Year, all. Take care.